100 then and now photos of America that'll hit you with nostalgia. Ready to travel through time? We've got 100 jaw-dropping photos of America, then and now. Some spots look completely different, while others feel frozen in time. Which ones surprise you the most? Stick around and let us know your favorite. Hoover Dam water level, 1983 versus 2022. Lackawanna Railroad, Sussex Branch, New Jersey, 1911 versus 2021. Bathgate Avenue, Bronx, 1936 versus present. West Main Street, Kent, Ohio, before 1910 versus present. Unlucky House in San Francisco, 1936 versus 2022. Los Angeles, Diazenas versus today. JFK's Boston apartment, 1959 versus 2024. The Matz family homestead, Wisconsin, 1907 versus 2024. Deadwood, South Dakota, Main Street, 1860s versus 2022. Store and residence of W. Kimmel, Rootstown, Ohio, circa 1908 versus present. 100th Meridian, Cozad, Nebraska, 1866 versus present. Two homes on Monroe Falls Avenue, Stowe, Ohio, early 1900s versus present. The house where Lincoln's assassination was plotted, Washington, D.C., 1865 versus present. Intersection of Central Avenue and Adams Street, Phoenix, Arizona, 1920s versus 2024. Playhouse Square, Cleveland, Ohio, 1928 versus 2021. A car crash in Brooklyn, 1941 versus present. Ventilator Boom Chair Factory, Quincy, Illinois, 1880 versus 2018. Sitting on their 1947 Chevrolet at dinner and 63 years later. Laird and Dines Building, Tempe, Arizona, 1900 versus now. Route 44, Rootstown, Ohio, 1947 versus 2023. Charleston, South Carolina, 1865 versus present. Welch, West Virginia, then versus now. Hibernian Hall, Charleston, South Carolina, before and after the Civil War. The Pines Resort, Fallsburg, New York, 1950s versus recent. Central Park, New York City, during the Great Depression versus present. Installation of the Lincoln statue at the Lincoln Memorial, 1920 versus present. Broad Boulevard, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, 1900 versus now. Chicago Water Tower, after the Great Fire of 1871 versus present. The Hollywood Sign, 1923 versus present. San Francisco LGBTQ Center, 1979 versus 2024. Los Angeles, then versus now. During a hike, the view from Georgeville Road and Sullivan Avenue, 1950s versus 2022. A former synagogue in San Francisco, converted into a Buddhist temple, 1986 versus present. Boston's Big Dig. Washington, D.C., 1860 versus present. Building fire in New Bedford, Massachusetts, 1965 versus 2019. Manhattan's elevated trains, 1920s versus 1980s. Union soldiers at Price, Birch and Company, a former slave trading firm in Alexandria, Virginia, during the Civil War versus present. Mapleton Fire Station, Taylorville, Pennsylvania, early 1900s versus 2022. Mount Rushmore, 1930s versus present. Central Park, 1890 versus present. Rootstown Schools, Ohio, 1917 versus 2015. Las Vegas, 1925 versus present. Erie Canal, Lockport, New York, 1892 versus 2021. Main Street, US 40, Scenery Hill, Pennsylvania, then versus now. Ada, Ohio, 1938 versus present. Brooklyn Bridge Walkway, 1920 versus today. .476 Broadway, New York City, 1870 versus 2023. Times Square, 1944 versus today. Miami Beach, 1900s versus 1910s. Mulberry Street Market, 1900 versus today. A historic road, 1860s versus present. "48th Street and 5th Avenue, 1947 versus now. San Francisco before the Golden Gate Bridge, 1868 versus present. Grand Central Terminal Ramp, 1913 versus present. Congress Avenue, Austin, Texas, 1901 versus present. Bryant Park, 1922 versus present. Intersection of Bouquet Canyon Road and Escondido Canyon Road, Porter Ranch, 1982 versus 2022. 14th Street and 8th Avenue, 1937 versus present. Sahara Lounge, Utica Avenue, Brooklyn, 1961 versus 2024. Madison Square Garden, 1890 versus 2012 at 2 different locations. "21 Pearl Street, New York City, 1890s versus 2024. A barge home in Claymont, Delaware. San Francisco, 1920 versus 2020. Brooklyn Bridge Walkway, 1899 versus 2017. Manhattan Bridge under construction, 1908 versus completed in 2011. Empire State Building, 1930 versus 2019. Honolulu, Hawaii, late 19th century versus present. Elizabeth Street tenements, then versus 100 years later. J. Uplinger Groceries, Rootstown, Ohio, circa 1900 versus now Stowe Monroe Barbershop. Central Park Pond, 1933 versus now. Bowery Savings Bank, 1905 versus today. View of the New York City skyline from the same bench, 1957 versus 2021. Times Tower, 1908 versus now. Old Town Center, West Chester, Pennsylvania, 1892 versus 2024. Zito's Bakery, 1947 versus now. A former Krispy Kreme location on State Road, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, 1959 versus present. Park Avenue, 1936 versus present. Union General Samuel P. Heintzelman and staff at Arlington House, Virginia, during the Civil War, then versus present. Bryant Park, 1922 versus present. The Great Frederick Fair, Frederick, Maryland, 1949 versus 2023. Manhattan Bridge entrance, 1917 versus present. Studio 54, New York City, 1977 versus present. Essex and Delancey Streets, 1967 versus present. Miami and Eerie Canal, St. Mary's, Ohio, 1949 versus present. Queens Midtown Tunnel exit, 1941 versus present. Harvey Milk's Castro Camera, San Francisco, 1975 versus 2024. Times Square, 1961 versus present. Hamilton, Montana, 1942 versus 2018. Ellis Island, Main Hall, 1902 to 1913 versus 2016. Speck's Bakery, Valparaiso, Indiana, 1929 versus present. Luna Park, Coney Island, 1903 versus 2010. Los Angeles Skyline, early days versus 2001. Rockaway Beach, 1903 versus 2014. Myersdale, Pennsylvania, Western Maryland Railroad Station, early 1900s versus 2021. Grand Central Terminal Main Concourse, 1930 versus 2014. Promontory Summit, Utah, 1869 versus present. Orchard and Rivington Streets, 1967 versus present. 9th and Maple Streets, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 1959 versus 2023. Columbus Circle, 1907 versus today. Deadwood, South Dakota, 1888 versus present. William Street and Maiden Lane, 1916 versus now. Elm Street, Dallas, Texas, 1900 versus present. James A. Farley, Post Office Interior, 1916 versus now. Woodstock Festival Site, 1969 versus present. Delancey Street toward Williamsburg Bridge, 1967 versus present. Detroit, 1882 versus 2017. Duffy Square, Times Square, then versus now. '79 Commercial Street, Provincetown, Massachusetts, then versus now. Statue of Liberty, 1900 versus 2018. Key West, Florida, railroad in 1912. Air travel arrived in 1928. The Overseas Highway opened in 1938. Fifth Avenue, 1913 versus 2016. Captain John Rogers House, Rootstown, Ohio, then versus now. Yankee Stadium, opening day, 1923 versus 2009, at two different locations. Abraham Lincoln's home, Springfield, Illinois, 1861 versus 2021. Broadway from Broome Street, 1917 versus now. Gallagher's Steakhouse, 1933 versus present. Little Syria, 1940s versus now. Herald Square, 1908 versus 2008. World Circus Sideshow, Coney Island, 1922 to 1941 versus present. '19 Pell Street, Chinatown, then versus now. Gideon Tucker House, Tribeca, then versus now. Fifth Avenue Storefronts, 1911 versus 2014. 14th Street and 8th Avenue, 1937 versus present. Attorney and Van Duzer Streets, 1945 versus now. Mott Street, 1967 versus present. (42nd Street and 7th Avenue, 1920 versus now. New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, Building, 1921 versus 2016. Flatiron Building, 1918 versus 2017. Apollo Theater, 1940s versus 2019. Washington Square Park Fountain, 1950 versus now. Gaida's Grocery Store, then versus now. St. Mark's Church in the Bowery, then versus now. Tip of Manhattan, 1935 versus today. McSorley's Old Ale House, circa 1900 versus now. East 57th Street, 1911 versus present. (61st Street and 1st Avenue, 1938 versus now. The 5 Spot, 1957 versus present. Grand Central Terminal, 1913 versus present. Hotel Edison, 1931 versus present. Fifth Avenue Shopping, 1900 versus 2011. Times Square, 1903 versus 2020. Fifth Avenue, 1938 versus now. The High Line, 1934 versus today. Empire State Building, view from 41st Street and 5th Avenue, 1933 versus 2016. Fraunces Tavern, 1900 versus 2016. Broad Street to Federal Hall, 1910 versus 2016. St. Patrick's Day Parade, 1909 versus 2019. San Remo Cafe, 1937 versus now. Mott Street Funeral Procession, 1905 versus present. Then and now, haunting photos of abandoned places in America that will take you back in time. Once thriving, now forgotten, abandoned places hold secrets of lost glory, eerie silence, and untold stories. From grand resorts to ghostly asylums, what led to their downfall? Let's uncover the mystery. Homowack Lodge. Tucked away in New York's Catskill Mountains, Homowack Lodge was once a lively retreat in the famous Borscht Belt, attracting vacationers with its rustic charm, entertainment, and outdoor activities. Over the years, it expanded into a summer camp, giving children a place to swim, hike, and make lifelong memories. However, as tourism declined and maintenance issues grew, the resort fell into disrepair. Safety violations eventually forced its closure, leaving behind an eerie landscape of crumbling buildings, overgrown pools, and empty halls. Today, it stands as a ghostly reminder of a once thriving era of Jewish American vacation culture. Goldfield Hotel. Standing in the heart of Goldfield, Nevada, the Goldfield Hotel is a haunting reminder of the town's once booming past. Built in 1908 during the gold rush, it was a luxurious retreat, boasting opulent decor, crystal chandeliers, and modern amenities unheard of in the rugged West. However, as the gold supply dwindled, the town's fortunes faded, and the hotel eventually closed. Now abandoned, its grand halls sit frozen in time, drawing ghost hunters and thrill seekers who claim to hear whispers and see shadowy figures. As one of the most famous haunted locations in the state, its eerie presence keeps legends alive. Boblo Island Amusement Park, Ontario, Canada. For nearly a century, Boblo Island Amusement Park was a cherished getaway for families in Ontario and Michigan. Opening in 1898, this island retreat offered classic thrills, including a towering Ferris wheel, a bustling zoo, and one of the largest dance halls in North America, where live bands kept crowds moving. Visitors arrived on charming steam-powered ferries, adding to the park's magic. However, as competition from larger theme parks grew, attendance declined, and Boblo closed in 1993. Today, the island is being redeveloped, but remnants of its past still linger, whispering stories of summers filled with laughter and adventure. Do you have any memories of visiting one of these forgotten places? Share your story. The rise and fall of a Poconos paradise. Summers in the Poconos once meant packed resorts, lakes filled with swimmers, and dance halls alive with music and laughter. Families from New York and Philadelphia flocked to the region, drawn by its fresh mountain air, scenic beauty, and endless entertainment. Couples honeymooned in heart-shaped tubs, while children explored nature trails and amusement parks. But as travel trends shifted and grand resorts shut their doors, the vibrant energy faded. Today, many of these once thriving vacation spots sit abandoned, their decaying structures whispering of a golden era now lost to time, where only echoes of the past remain. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Perched on a hill in Louisville, Kentucky, Waverly Hills Sanatorium was built in 1910 as a state-of-the-art tuberculosis hospital. At the height of the epidemic, it housed hundreds of patients, many of whom never left. An estimated 6,000 people perished within its walls. With limited treatments available, radical procedures like lung removal and the infamous death tunnel, used to discreetly transport bodies, became part of daily life. After closing as a sanatorium in 1961, It briefly operated as a geriatric facility before shutting down in 1982. Now abandoned, its eerie halls attract ghost hunters, drawn by chilling tales of paranormal activity. Have you ever experienced anything eerie or unexplainable at an abandoned place? Tell us. Bannack. Bannack, Montana, sprang to life in 1862 after gold was discovered along Grasshopper Creek, igniting a rush of fortune seekers. As Montana's first major gold camp, it quickly grew into a thriving frontier town, complete with saloons, a hotel, and even the state's first territorial capital. But as gold veins dried up, Bannack's population dwindled, and by the 1950s, it was abandoned. Today, the well-preserved ghost town stands frozen in time, with over 60 buildings offering a glimpse into the Wild West. Visitors walk its dusty streets, imagining the boomtown days when outlaws and prospectors ruled the land. Fort Jefferson. Fort Jefferson, an imposing hexagonal fortress in the dry Tortugas, Florida, was built in 1846 to guard vital shipping lanes. Intended to be a coastal stronghold, its construction dragged on for decades, hampered by logistical challenges and the Civil War. Though never fully completed, it became a Union military prison, most famously holding Dr. Samuel Mudd, who treated John Wilkes Booth after Lincoln's assassination. Harsh conditions, disease, and supply shortages plagued the fort, leading to its abandonment in 1874. Today, its massive brick walls stand as a striking remnant of history, drawing visitors to explore its eerie, sun-baked ruins. Miracle Strip Amusement Park, Florida. Miracle Strip Amusement Park in Panama City, Beach, Florida, was a beloved coastal attraction for over 4 decades. Opening in 1963, it became famous for the Starliner, Florida's first wooden roller coaster, which thrilled generations of visitors with its classic out-and-back design. Along with carnival-style rides, games, and a nostalgic boardwalk atmosphere, it was a staple of family vacations. However, as larger theme parks grew in popularity, attendance declined. By 2004, Miracle Strip shut its gates for good. Its rides sold off to collectors in other parks. Today, the site has been redeveloped, but memories of its golden years live on. Ohio State Reformatory. The Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, is a towering, castle-like prison with a dark and haunting past. Built in the late 1800s, it was originally designed to reform young offenders, but over time, it gained a reputation for overcrowding, harsh conditions, and violence. After nearly a century of operation, the prison shut its doors in 1990, but its eerie presence remains. With stories of restless spirits, shadowy figures, and unexplained noises, it has become a hotspot for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts. Today, visitors can explore its decaying cell blocks through tours, including overnight ghost hunts for the brave. Poveglia Island. Shrouded in mystery and legend, Poveglia Island sits in the Venetian lagoon, its eerie silence hiding a dark past. Used as a quarantine station during the bubonic plague, it became a mass burial site for thousands of victims, their ashes mingling with the soil. Later, in the 20th century, it housed a psychiatric hospital where rumors of unethical experiments and tortured souls only added to its chilling reputation. After its closure in 1968, the island was abandoned, left to decay under the weight of its history. Today, its crumbling buildings and overgrown courtyards make it one of the world's most haunted places. Geauga Lake. Once a beloved family destination, Geauga Lake in Aurora, Ohio, began as a simple lakeside retreat in 1887 before evolving into one of the largest amusement parks in the country. Over the decades, it grew, adding thrilling roller coasters, water rides, and even a marine life park. In 2000, It was rebranded as Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, but financial struggles and declining attendance led to its closure in 2007. The once bustling park was left to decay, with its rides dismantled and sold off. Today, the site has been redeveloped, but memories of its golden years still linger among longtime visitors. Disney's River Country. Once a groundbreaking attraction, Disney's River Country opened in 1976 as Walt Disney World's first water park, offering a rustic, old-fashioned swimming experience. With sandy bottom lagoons, rope swings, and winding water slides, it was designed to feel like a natural swimming hole, blending seamlessly into the Florida wilderness. However, changing safety regulations and competition from newer water parks led to its closure in 2001. Left abandoned for years, its once lively pools became overgrown and eerie, with vines creeping over forgotten slides. By 2016, Disney officially drained and filled in the pool, erasing one of its most unique and nostalgic attractions. Michigan Central Station. Once a symbol of Detroit's grandeur, Michigan Central Station opened in 1913 as one of the country's most impressive train depots. Towering 18 stories, its elegant Beaux-Arts design welcomed millions of travelers during the golden age of rail. But as train travel declined, the station fell into neglect, finally closing in 1988. For decades, it stood as a haunting relic of Detroit's industrial collapse, its windows shattered, its grand hallways left to decay. Yet, in a remarkable turnaround, Ford Motor Company restored the station, reopening it in 2024 as a state-of-the-art mobility innovation hub, blending history with the future. The Drish House. The Drish House, an imposing 19th-century mansion near Tuscaloosa, Alabama, is steeped in history and ghostly legends. Built in 1860 by Dr. John R. Drish, a wealthy plantation owner, the estate once included slave quarters, whose presence adds a somber layer to its past. Over the years, eerie tales of flickering lights and ghostly apparitions have fueled its haunted reputation. Some say the restless spirit of Dr. Drish himself roams the halls, while others believe echoes of the past linger in the abandoned structures. Now preserved as a historic site, the mansion remains a chilling relic of the Old South. West Virginia Penitentiary. The West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville is a towering Gothic fortress with a chilling past. Opened in 1876, this notorious prison housed some of the state's most violent criminals and was the site of brutal executions, riots, and even prisoner-run torture chambers. Overcrowding and harsh conditions only added to its dark reputation. When it finally closed in 1995, stories of lingering spirits and eerie sightings quickly spread. Paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers now flock to its empty halls, where shadows seem to move, disembodied voices whisper, and the echoes of a grim history refuse to fade. The Deauville Beach Resort. Once a shining example of Miami modern architecture, the Deauville Beach Resort was an icon of glamour and sophistication. Designed by famed architect Morris Lapidus, it opened in 1957, hosting A-list celebrities, including Frank Sinatra and the Beatles, who famously performed there in 1964. With its sleek design, lavish ballrooms, and oceanfront luxury, it epitomized the golden age of Miami Beach. However, years of neglect led to its decline, and by the 2010s, it was shuttered. In 2022, the once glorious resort met its final fate, imploded, leaving behind only memories of its storied past. Grossinger's Tennis Center. Once a premier destination for tennis enthusiasts, Grossinger's Tennis Center was part of the famed Catskills Resort that set the standard for luxury and entertainment. Known for its state-of-the-art courts and high-profile matches, The center was even linked to advertising campaigns for rye bread, emphasizing the resort's cultural significance. At its peak, it welcomed athletes and celebrities alike, offering top-tier facilities in a picturesque mountain setting. But as vacation trends shifted, Grossinger's fell into decline, and the once bustling tennis courts now sit in eerie silence, overtaken by nature and memories of a golden era long past. Kennecott Mines, Alaska. Nestled deep in the Alaskan wilderness, the Kennecott Mines were once the heart of one of the richest copper discoveries in history. From 1911 to 1938, miners extracted an astonishing $200 million worth of copper, fueling America's industrial growth. The remote town thrived with workers, families, and a bustling economy. But when the copper supply dwindled, Kennecott was abandoned almost overnight. Left to the elements, its towering red mill and weathered buildings became a ghost town, frozen in time. Today, efforts are underway to restore and preserve this historic site, allowing visitors to explore its rugged past and industrial legacy. Pocono Mountains. This vintage 1967 postcard captures the charm of summertime in the Pocono Mountains, a beloved vacation destination in Pennsylvania. During the mid-20th century, the Poconos were famous for their scenic resorts, sparkling lakes, and endless outdoor activities. Families flocked here to escape city life, enjoying swimming, boating, and evenings filled with live entertainment. The postcard, with its sun-drenched imagery and nostalgic design, serves as a time capsule from an era when the region was at its peak. Though many of the classic resorts have faded, the Poconos still hold a special place in the memories of those who vacationed there. Houston Astrodome. When the Houston Astrodome opened in 1965, it was a marvel of engineering, earning the nickname the eighth wonder of the world. As the first fully enclosed domed stadium, it revolutionized sports and entertainment, hosting everything from baseball and football games to concerts and rodeos. Its futuristic design and massive capacity made it a cultural icon. However, as newer stadiums emerged, the Astrodome fell into disuse. Though largely abandoned today, it has served as an emergency shelter during crises, most notably housing thousands of Hurricane Katrina evacuees in 2005. Its future remains uncertain, but its legacy is undeniable. The Charles Street Jail in Boston. Opened in 1851, the Charles Street Jail in Boston was a striking example of 19th-century prison architecture, designed by Gridley James Fox Bryant. Though built with reform in mind, it quickly became notorious for its harsh conditions and severe overcrowding. Housing some of Boston's most infamous criminals, the jail saw decades of unrest before finally shutting its doors in 1990. Instead of fading into obscurity, however, its grand granite structure was transformed into the Liberty Hotel, blending history with modern luxury. Today, guests dine and sleep where inmates once served time, experiencing a unique fusion of past and present. Penn Hills Resort. Once a romantic getaway in the heart of the Poconos, Penn Hills Resort was known for its honeymoon suites, heart-shaped bathtubs, and vibrant nightlife. Among its standout amenities was a sleek, modern indoor pool, offering guests a luxurious escape regardless of the season. During its heyday, the resort was a haven for couples seeking a glamorous retreat, complete with live entertainment and scenic mountain views. However, as tastes changed and tourism declined, Penn Hills fell into disrepair. Now abandoned, its once inviting pool sits empty, a haunting reminder of the resort's faded glamour and the golden age of Poconos tourism. The Baker Hotel and Spa. The Baker Hotel and Spa, a towering symbol of opulence in Mineral Wells, Texas, first opened its doors in 1929, drawing in celebrities, politicians, and socialites seeking the town's famed mineral waters. With its grand ballrooms, luxurious spa, and stunning Spanish Revival architecture, it became a premier destination during the height of the Roaring Twenties and beyond. However, as interest in mineral water therapy faded, the hotel struggled and eventually shut down in 1972. For decades, it stood abandoned, a haunting relic of its former glory. After years of restoration, this historic gem was brought back to life in 2024, once again welcoming guests to experience its timeless elegance. City Hall Subway Station. Deep beneath the bustling streets of New York City lies the stunning City Hall Subway Station, a hidden gem frozen in time. Designed by the renowned architect Rafael Guastavino, this was the city's very first subway station, opening in 1904 as part of the original IRT line. With its elegant curved design, vaulted tile ceilings, and skylights that once bathed the platform in natural light, it was a masterpiece of early 20th century architecture. However, as subway cars grew longer and demand shifted, the station was closed in 1945. Today, it remains off-limits to regular commuters, but can be explored through exclusive guided tours. Joyland Amusement Park. Once a beloved attraction in Wichita, Kansas, Joyland Amusement Park brought generations of families thrilling rides and unforgettable memories. Opening in 1949, it was best known for its classic wooden roller coaster, a rickety but exhilarating ride that became the park's signature feature. Over the decades, Joyland struggled with financial difficulties and upkeep, but a serious accident in 2004 marked the beginning of the end. Safety concerns forced a partial closure, and by 2006, the park shut down for good. Left abandoned, its once lively midway and rides slowly decayed, turning it into a haunting relic of Wichita's past. Rhyolite, Nevada. Rhyolite, Nevada, rose from the desert in the early 1900s, fueled by dreams of gold and prosperity. At its peak, the mining town boasted banks, hotels, a school, and even an opera house, with a population nearing 5,000. But fortune was fleeting. The financial panic of 1907 dried up investments, mines shut down, and residents fled in search of new opportunities. By 1920, Rhyolite was nearly deserted, its once thriving streets now silent. Today, its crumbling buildings, including the famous Bottle House and the skeletal remains of its Grand Bank, stand as eerie monuments to a boomtown lost to time. Letchworth Village. Letchworth Village, once envisioned as a progressive facility for individuals with developmental disabilities, became a place of suffering and neglect. Opening in 1911 in Rockland County, New York, it was meant to provide humane care. But as the years passed, overcrowding, disease outbreaks, and staff shortages turned it into a nightmare. Infamously, the first human trials of the polio vaccine were conducted on children here in the 1950s. By the late 20th century, reports of abuse and inhumane conditions led to its closure in 1996. Today, its decaying buildings stand as a chilling reminder of a dark chapter in psychiatric history. Grossinger's Indoor Pool. When Grossinger's Indoor Pool opened in 1958, it was the pinnacle of luxury in the Catskills, embodying the golden era of resort life. Featuring heated tiles, floor-to-ceiling windows, and sleek mid-century architecture, the pool area offered guests a lavish retreat, no matter the season. Celebrities and vacationers alike swam beneath elegant chandeliers, relaxing in an atmosphere of pure indulgence. But as the Borscht Belt declined and the resort shuttered in 1986, the once glamorous oasis fell into decay. Now, broken tiles and moss-covered floors replace its former grandeur, leaving behind only ghostly echoes of its shimmering past. Six Flags, New Orleans, originally Jazzland. Once a lively amusement park filled with music, laughter, and the thrill of roller coasters, Six Flags New Orleans, originally Jazzland, met a tragic fate in 2005. Revamped in 2002 to bring new life to the park, it became a staple of family entertainment in the city. But when Hurricane Katrina struck, floodwaters submerged the park for weeks, leaving behind extensive damage. Rides rusted, structures collapsed, and the vibrant energy was replaced by eerie silence. Though proposals for redevelopment have surfaced over the years, the park remains abandoned, a haunting relic of both its joyful past and the storm's devastation. North Brother Island. Once a place of isolation and tragedy, North Brother Island sits abandoned in New York's East River, its crumbling buildings hidden beneath dense overgrowth. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it served as a quarantine hospital for patients with deadly diseases like tuberculosis, smallpox, and typhoid, most famously housing Typhoid Mary. Later, it became a rehabilitation center for drug addicts before closing for good in the 1960s. Today, nature has reclaimed the island, transforming it into a protected bird sanctuary. Though off-limits to the public, its eerie, decayed ruins stand as a haunting reminder of its dark past. Please comment 1 to let me know you'll be watching this video until the end. Byron Hot Springs Hotel in California. Once a glamorous retreat for Hollywood stars and wealthy elites, the Byron Hot Springs Hotel in California now stands in eerie decay. In its heyday, this luxurious resort attracted celebrities, politicians, and socialites seeking relaxation in its mineral-rich hot springs. Lavish banquets, grand ballrooms, and serene spa treatments made it a symbol of indulgence. However, time was unkind to the resort. After serving as a prisoner of war camp during World War II and later as a religious retreat, it fell into abandonment. Today, graffiti covers its crumbling walls, and silence replaces the laughter that once filled its opulent halls. The Overlook Mountain House. Perched high in the Catskills, the Overlook Mountain House was once a grand retreat, offering breathtaking views and lavish accommodations. Built in the 19th century to attract wealthy travelers, it faced a troubled history. Fires repeatedly destroyed the structure, and each attempt to rebuild ended in failure. By the mid-20th century, efforts to revive the resort were abandoned, leaving behind a hauntingly beautiful ruin. Today, its crumbling stone walls stand as a ghostly reminder of its former glory, drawing hikers and history enthusiasts who explore its remains along the scenic Overlook Mountain Trail. Eastern State Penitentiary. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia was one of the most infamous prisons in American history. Opening in 1829, it introduced a radical new system of solitary confinement designed to encourage reflection and reform. However, the harsh conditions often led to madness rather than rehabilitation. Over the years, it housed thousands of inmates, including the notorious gangster Al Capone, who had a surprisingly well-furnished cell. Known for its eerie stone corridors and tales of brutal punishments, the prison closed in 1971. Today, its crumbling walls and empty cell blocks serve as a museum, drawing visitors and ghost hunters alike. The Pines Resort. The Pines Resort in South Fallsburg, New York, was once a thriving getaway in the heart of the Borscht Belt, a region famous for its grand resorts catering to vacationers from the early to mid-20th century. It offered everything from luxurious accommodations to entertainment, dining, and outdoor activities. But as air travel became more affordable and Americans sought out new destinations, places like the Pines fell into decline. With fewer guests and rising maintenance costs, the resort eventually shut down, leaving behind eerie, crumbling buildings overtaken by nature, a haunting reminder of a bygone era of resort culture. Grossinger's Pool. Once a symbol of luxury in the golden age of the Catskills, Grossinger's indoor pool was a marvel of mid-century design. Part of the famed Grossinger's Resort, this lavish pool area featured heated tiles, air conditioning, and even elegant chandeliers, offering guests an upscale escape from city life. Celebrities, honeymooners, and vacationers flocked here, indulging in its glamorous atmosphere. But as travel trends shifted and the Borscht Belt faded, the resort closed, leaving the pool to decay. Now, broken tiles, graffiti-covered walls, and stagnant water stand in stark contrast to its former grandeur, a haunting reminder of a bygone era. Which abandoned resort or theme park from this list would you explore if given the chance? That's a wrap on our journey through time. Which photo amazed you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you loved this, check out more videos in the series and relive even more memories. Don't forget to subscribe and share Who Remembers with friends who love nostalgia. Thanks for watching.